Hi, in this video we are going to minimize our wasted time and effort by taking a look at correlation strength for various page tuning factors. So I've already run the software for the search term SEO Tips 2017, and I'm looking at the output file from that run. And so on the summary tab we have the basic measurements for how much tuning each factor needs to be optimally tuned for this search term. But what we want to look at is the overview tab. So I switch tabs, and the overview tab has our measurement data and our correlations. So if I scroll down, here we have our correlations by row. So each factor has its own row. If I scroll over, we have measurements by page. So for this first factor, the average result on page 1 had a measurement of 52. The average result on page 2 had a measurement of 17 for that one factor. If I continue scrolling over, I have the measurements for each individual result for each factor across the top 100. We then use these measurements to calculate the correlations both by page as well as overall for each factor. And then we sort the list so that the factors that appear to matter the most to influence rankings appear at the top, and the factors that do nothing for you kind of get lost in the middle, and then all the way at the bottom, the factors that appear to harm your rankings will appear at the bottom. I should briefly mention why the good factors have negative correlation strengths. It has to do with the slope of the trend line. So typically when we want to rank, we want to get as close as we can to number one, the number one spot on Google being the best. So as ranks go from 10, 9, 8 all the way to 1, that's a better standing. But to do that, we need more of a normal factor. So if the number of sentences on a page was a ranking factor, then we'd expect to see more sentences equals better rankings. So those measurements would go up, 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 while rank position goes down, down, down. And that is an inverse relationship, and the slope of that line on a chart, if you were to plot a normal factor with ranking position, would have a negative slope, and that's why the correlation coefficient is negative here. Good SEO factors have a strong negative correlation. And correlations coefficients, they go from -1 to +1. And so the strongest correlations you can have would be a -1 or a +1, but nearly always the values are somewhere in the middle because there are very rarely perfect correlations. And what you find when you have a correlation coefficient that is near 0 on that scale, that means there is no correlation. Your measurement data appears to be random with respect to ranking position. It's almost like you're flipping a coin to see who ranks where. And so we don't want to see that. We're trying to find the rig coins that appear to influence your ranking. So if we wanted to minimize wasted time, we should not be working on things that don't have strong correlation. So you'll see that there's color coding. Anything that is orange is statistically significant, and that means we have a noteworthy correlation that probably should be considered. If it's blue, it almost reached significance, but not quite, and if it's white, it did not reach significance. And so it's important to note those distinctions. The things you typically want to work on will be orange, and everything else should probably be ignored unless you have a lot of time to really dig deeper and find out whether or not it's worth your time. So, looking at this, we can then go straight to the middle, and we find all these things that had no correlation. And if we change these, we have no measurement of data that would lead us to expect improvement. Now, it might very well be that if we increase the number of matches in B tags, that increases the number of matches we have overall on the page, and overall on the page matters, but not necessarily having matches specifically in B tags matters. So if we did address this factor, we might see improvement because it's correlation, not causation. And so increasing the number of matches on the page matters a lot, but specifically within bold tags, not so much. But even though adding more matches in bold tags increases the matches on page, you could have an improvement effect. But what we typically find is when you focus on the most significant, the strongest correlations, when you focus on those factors first, you tend to get your best result with your least amount of effort. So if you wanted to avoid wasting time and money and effort, you would want to avoid anything in the middle that doesn't have significance.